Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. The 2025 Miami Dolphins are entering this season with a lot less hype than they had in recent years, and that alone makes them one of the most fascinating teams to talk about. See, when everyone expects you to be great and you stumble, the narrative gets ugly real fast. But when the spotlight fades and the attention shifts elsewhere, that's when sleeper teams are born. I was watching Caden's Corner the other night, and he broke down why the Dolphins are still dangerous in 2025. His points had me thinking hard about just how quickly narratives can flip in the NFL. Suddenly, a team people dismiss can come alive, win big games, and shock everybody. This exact scenario feels tailor-made for Miami, a squad with talent everywhere, but one that is flying completely under the radar. Today, I'll break down why I think they're a sleeper team this year. First of all, one of the key ingredients to being labeled a sleeper team is invisibility in the national conversation. No one is talking about Miami, and that's actually a blessing in disguise. Look back at history. Remember the Bengals in 2021? Nobody expected Joe Burrow and company to take off, yet they ended up in the Super Bowl. Or even the Washington Commanders in 2024, when they stunned the NFC by marching all the way to the championship game. That's the kind of energy Miami could replicate. They've got a tough schedule ahead, sure, with divisional matchups against Buffalo and a primetime test versus Baltimore. But those games create opportunities to prove their legitimacy. Miami doesn't need to dominate headlines in September, they just need to quietly stack wins. Once people realize they're hanging with the league's elite, that's when the sleeper tag becomes dangerous. By then, the Dolphins could be positioned for a playoff push no one saw coming. The Dolphins have also proven time and time again that doubters fuel them. In 2008, no one thought they'd sniff the playoffs, yet they went and won the division. In 2016, they started 1-4, and then somehow turned it into a playoff berth. In 2023, they opened the year white-hot, winning 9 of their first 12 games before injuries derailed the stretch run. That's the storyline with Miami: resilience. They always find ways to be relevant when people least expect it, and that's exactly why 2025 could be different. Sure, there are questions about whether this team can finally win a playoff game for the first time in over 2 decades, but the foundation is there. They have experience. They have battle scars. And if they can stay healthy, the ceiling is higher than most fans, and definitely most analysts, are willing to admit. The lack of respect this offseason could serve as the exact motivation they need. The second big reason Miami is a sleeper lies in their offense, which not too long ago was the most explosive unit in the entire league. In 2023, they led the NFL in total yards and finished second in points scored, behind only the Cowboys. Think about that for a second. They had the most dangerous offense in football. And it's basically the same group coming back for 2025, led by Mike McDaniel's innovative play calling. Of course, it all hinges on one man, Tua Tagovailoa. When he's upright, Miami's offense clicks on every cylinder. The numbers back it up. When Tua plays, the Dolphins have a win percentage over 60%. At home in Hard Rock Stadium, he boasts the highest winning rate among active quarterbacks. That is not an accident. The narrative around Tua being injury-prone has overshadowed just how effective he's been, and that disrespect only adds fuel to his fire. And let's be honest, the whole injury-prone conversation is one of the laziest narratives in the sport. Every quarterback in this league is one bad hit away from a career-altering moment. Do people call Patrick Mahomes injury-prone because he limped through a playoff game? No. Do people slap the label on Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen when they miss time? Not really. Yet with Tua, the media has been relentless in painting him as fragile, and that has completely masked his production. In 2023, when he played a full season, Miami went toe-to-toe with contenders and looked like a legitimate AFC power. If he has another healthy year in 2025, there's no reason this offense can't re-establish itself among the league's elite. They've got speed, they've got weapons, and they've got creativity in play design. And once again, being overlooked means defenses might forget just how deadly they can be when everything is rolling. Now let's flip over to the other side of the ball, because Miami's defense has quietly undergone one of the most important changes of the offseason. Anthony Weaver steps in as defensive coordinator, and that is massive. This guy is viewed around the league as one of the brightest young minds, and pairing him with McDaniel creates a fascinating balance. Offense is already McDaniel's specialty, but Weaver gives Miami something they've been missing, a true defensive identity. The Dolphins' defense has dealt with injuries at every level the past 2 seasons, but the pieces are there for a breakout. Yes, cornerback depth is thin, but signings like Rasul Douglas bring leadership, and Juju Brents adds fresh legs. The safeties, once healthy, should hold up, and Weaver's scheme thrives when the secondary can trust the front 7 to create chaos. That's where this roster shines, an underrated but dangerous front. And that front 7 might just be the biggest key to unlocking Miami's sleeper potential. Think about the names: Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Matthew Judon, Chop Robinson, Zach Sealer, and Kenneth Grant. That's a lot of talent, a lot of versatility, and a lot of pressure waiting to collapse pockets. Chubb and Phillips are both coming back from tough injuries, but if they rebound even close to their pre-injury form, quarterbacks in the AFC East are going to have nightmares. Pair that with Weaver's aggressive play calling, and suddenly Miami could be stealing possessions and flipping games with timely turnovers. That's how sleeper teams win, by creating chaos in moments that swing momentum. If this group can stay healthy and force opposing offenses into mistakes, it won't just support the offense. It'll elevate the Dolphins into a team nobody wants to face in January. Defense, after all, still wins championships. What excites me most about Weaver's system is how it could set up the secondary to grow. Miami has leaned on youth at defensive back, and while inexperience has hurt them before, the potential upside is tremendous. Guys like Storm Duck and Jason Marshall could emerge if they feed off the energy up front. Meanwhile, veterans like Rasul Douglas and Jack Jones offer mentorship and stability. It's a nice mix of seasoned players and young talent hungry to prove themselves. The Dolphins are banking on Weaver to maximize that combination, and honestly, I believe he will. He's been compared to Steve Spagnuolo for a reason: the creativity, the ability to disguise coverages, and the knack for dialing up the right blitz at the right time. That's exactly the kind of edge that can turn a middle-of-the-pack defense into a game-changing unit. Pair that with the offense's firepower, and you've got balance. So let's zoom out and piece everything together. Miami enters the 2025 season with zero national buzz. Everyone's distracted by the Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, and even the Jets, with Aaron Rodgers trying one more run. But in that shadow, the Dolphins are quietly building something. They have a quarterback who wins games when he's healthy, an offense that has already proven it can torch anyone in the league, and a defense now guided by a rising mastermind who could bring out the best in both veterans and young playmakers. That's the classic sleeper recipe. No hype, no heavy expectations, but all the ingredients to shock people once the season unfolds. If history tells us anything, it's that the NFL loves a surprise. And Miami, sitting under the radar, has every chance to be that surprise team in 2025. The question is, are we underestimating them again? To wrap this up, let me say this loud and clear: the Miami Dolphins are not a perfect team, but they are a dangerous one. Nobody's talking about them, which is exactly how a sleeper emerges. Their offense, powered by a healthy Tua, can light up scoreboards the way it did just 2 years ago. Their defense, with Anthony Weaver calling the shots, might finally match the offensive energy. Put those together, and you've got a team capable of sneaking into the playoffs and maybe, just maybe, winning their first postseason game in 25 years. Will they? That's the million-dollar question. But don't be shocked if by December we're looking back, saying we should have seen this coming. The 2025 Miami Dolphins might not be flashy in preseason talk, but they could absolutely be the roller coaster ride fans will never forget. That's why they're my sleeper pick this year. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? The whispers are getting louder, and what was once just background noise has now become a roar in the NFL rumor mill. Tyreek Hill is leaving the Miami Dolphins. Yes, you heard that right. The superstar wide receiver, the cheetah himself, is reportedly done in South Beach. Behind closed doors, the decision has already been made, and while nothing official has hit the press release page yet, insiders say the separation is inevitable. This isn't just another trade rumor tossed around for clicks. This is shaping up to be one of the biggest shakeups in recent NFL memory. Tyreek Hill was the crown jewel of Miami's offense, the guy who brought speed, electricity, and swagger to Hard Rock Stadium every single Sunday. Fans bought jerseys, analysts praised the connection with Tua Tagovailoa, and defenses lived in fear. But now, that chapter is closing, and the Dolphins are staring at a brand new reality. When Tyreek Hill arrived in Miami, it felt like the Dolphins had unlocked a new era. The trade from Kansas City was massive, and his presence instantly elevated the franchise into a contender's conversation. Suddenly, the Dolphins weren't just an afterthought in the AFC East. They were a team with a weapon that could change games in one play. Hill's speed stretched defenses, opened lanes for teammates, and gave Tua the confidence to sling the ball deep. For 2 seasons, he gave fans highlight after highlight, racking up yards, touchdowns, and jaw-dropping moments. He was more than a player. He was a symbol of Miami's ambition to compete with the league's best. Yet, as all good stories seem to go in professional sports, the honeymoon phase eventually ends. Now, with whispers that the Dolphins and Hill are parting ways, it leaves fans asking, how did it all go wrong so quickly? The reasons behind Hill's exit remain cloaked in speculation, but the word coming out is that this isn't about talent. Nobody questions Tyreek Hill's ability. The man is still one of the fastest, most dynamic players on the planet. Instead, this is about business, locker room chemistry, and long-term direction. Some say the Dolphins are unwilling to commit even more money as Hill pushes for another payday, believing that his age and style of play may not justify another monster contract. Others suggest that behind the scenes, there were growing tensions, whether over usage, targets, or the team's offensive identity. It's a cocktail of factors that often brews in the NFL, and when it explodes, even superstars aren't safe. The Dolphins, once sold on Hill as their offensive engine, now seem ready to pivot, and Hill himself seems ready to bolt, taking his talents to a new stage. For Miami fans, this rumor feels like heartbreak layered on top of confusion. Just months ago, Hill was talking about chasing records, aiming for 2,000 receiving yards, and cementing his name among the all-time greats. The chemistry with Tua seemed undeniable, and the offensive scheme looked built around his speed and explosiveness. Yet, beneath the surface, something clearly fractured. Dolphins faithful, who invested their hopes and dreams into this partnership, are left wondering if the front office has miscalculated once again. It wouldn't be the first time Miami has built momentum only to see it crumble. From Dan Marino's era ending without a ring to recent false dawns under different coaches, this franchise has lived with its share of letdowns. The departure of Hill, if finalized, could feel like another chapter in that book of what could have been, leaving fans to brace themselves for another rebuild. On the other side of the coin, NFL teams are circling like sharks. The idea of Tyreek Hill being available has front offices salivating. Imagine him landing with a contender already loaded with talent. Suddenly, a Super Bowl favorite looks untouchable. Teams with cap space and a quarterback hungry for a deep threat will make calls the second Hill's exit becomes official. Think about squads like the Ravens, Cowboys, or even a surprise dark horse like Detroit. Anyone with playoff ambitions and the resources could change the balance of power overnight. Hill isn't just another receiver. He's a game-changer who demands double coverage and still finds ways to torch defenses. Wherever he lands, expectations will skyrocket, and that new fan base will instantly believe a Lombardi trophy is within reach. That's the kind of gravitational pull Hill brings, the kind Miami is now letting slip through its fingers. From Hill's perspective, this could be about more than money or statistics. Players of his caliber think about legacy, about where they'll be remembered when the dust settles. In Kansas City, he won a Super Bowl and played alongside Patrick Mahomes, forming one of the deadliest duos in modern football. In Miami, he proved he could thrive without Mahomes, elevating Tua and injecting life into a long-dormant offense. Now, maybe he's eyeing his next challenge. Maybe he wants a bigger market, more national spotlight, or simply a situation where the system bends entirely around him. Or perhaps he's tired of the behind-the-scenes politics and wants a fresh start. Whatever the case, Hill seems ready to move on, and when a superstar decides it's time, rarely does anyone stop them. He's walking away on his terms, even if Dolphins fans feel blindsided. The Dolphins organization, meanwhile, faces a crossroads. Letting Hill go sends shockwaves not just through their roster, but through their credibility as contenders. How do you replace that level of production? How do you convince your locker room that losing its most electric player is part of the plan? General Manager Chris Greer and head coach Mike McDaniel now find themselves under enormous pressure to justify this decision. Will they invest in younger talent through the draft, swing for another big trade, or pivot toward building a more balanced, less star-driven offense? Whatever the path, the clock is ticking because the AFC East is no joke. Buffalo, New York, and even New England are constantly looking for an edge, and Miami risks falling behind if this transition isn't handled flawlessly. Losing Tyreek Hill is one thing. Mishandling what comes next would be catastrophic. Fans and media personalities are already speculating about fallout in the locker room. Tua Tagovailoa, in particular, faces a new wave of scrutiny. His connection with Hill was often cited as proof that he could be a franchise quarterback. Now, with that safety valve potentially gone, the spotlight burns even hotter. Can he thrive without Hill's blazing speed bailing him out? Can he still deliver elite numbers and silence critics? And what about guys like Jalen Waddle, who now inherits the role of undisputed WR1? Can he handle defenses zeroing in on him every week? These are questions Miami's front office must have weighed before agreeing to this split. But the gamble is massive. If the offense sputters, blame will land squarely on their shoulders, and Dolphins fans won't forgive easily. In the NFL, windows for success are small, and Miami may have just slammed theirs shut. The league itself will be buzzing nonstop until Hill's next destination is revealed. ESPN panels, Twitter debates, YouTube channels, and podcasts will all feast on the speculation. Every cryptic social media post from Hill will be dissected, every potential trade partner analyzed, and every front office rumor amplified. This is what happens when a superstar moves. Football becomes a soap opera, and fans can't get enough. For Miami, though, the narrative will sting. They went all in, spent big money, and put their chips on the table, only to see the bet collapse. Meanwhile, the rest of the NFL watches, some teams desperate to pounce, others just happy to see a rival weakened. It's chaos, it's drama, and it's exactly the kind of storyline that defines an offseason. And when the dust settles, the NFL landscape might look very different because of it. In the end, the Tyreek Hill era in Miami will be remembered as electric but fleeting. It was a time of hope, of highlight reels, of Dolphins fans daring to dream bigger than they had in decades. But it's also ending in disappointment, another reminder of how brutal and unpredictable this league can be. One minute you're celebrating touchdowns, the next you're digesting rumors that your franchise cornerstone is out the door. For Tyreek Hill, it's the continuation of a career defined by speed, spectacle, and movement. For the Dolphins, it's a hard reset and an uncertain future. And for the NFL as a whole, it's a moment that shakes the board, opening possibilities and storylines that will dominate conversations for months. The Cheetah is leaving Miami, and no matter where he runs next, the ripple effects will be felt everywhere. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.